Welcome to Disambiguation. I'm your host, Michael Fawcett. Each week we interview experts in AI, generative AI, and business automation to help business leaders understand how to use these tools for the biggest business impact. In our show today, we look at a systemic approach to business AI. I'm joined by Raju Vegesna from Zoho. I welcome. Really good conversation.
Thank you.
Excited.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Could you just give us a quick intro and talk a little bit about what you do at Zoho?
Yeah.
And we have only 30 minutes,
Yeah.
and I know how much you do. So
I mean, it's whatever it takes. That's how I would go. As a business, you have to flip hats and take on multiple challenges. And any typical business has enough challenges. So whatever is the latest challenging that we have, so we just take it up and try to solve the problem.
how long have you been associated? Since the beginning, or
close
just,
to 25 years now.
Yeah, that's
I
right.
mean, it's interesting that I spent over half my life in Zoho now.
That's crazy, but exciting. And,
Exciting,
And I mean,
exciting.
as much
Yeah,
as I
yeah.
know about the company, I'm
yeah,
sure.
very much so.
So obviously focusing on AI and generative AI, I'm just curious, kind of at a high level, how is Zoho thinking about this? How are you approaching going to market with AI in the applications?
It's like, how do we approach HTTP? Right? We don't think about it,
Right.
but it's an essential part of browsing the web. AI, fast forward a few years, AI is going to be that, where we don't think about TCP/IP much.
No.
It plays an essential role. So we approach AI the same way, where it is going to be part of every application.
Right.
And so we just treat it that way. We see it as a commodity. We see it in every application. Generally, any software for that matter, it's a tool. And the tool keeps getting better. AI is yet another ingredient that makes it even better. Right. So a tool can transition to a power tool. So you still don't talk about it as AI. You talk about it as a power tool.
Right.
And so which means AI is going to be everywhere. So it's all about now how do we convert that tool to a power tool, and that's
Sure.
how we are looking at it.
No, that makes sense. So one of the things that a lot of people in business have looked at AI and they think kind of generative AI, and they're thinking about this in a very small context. And so at an individual level, productivity gains, sure. But when you think about it and you start to take a more systemic approach, I mean, how is that, does that apply to what you guys are doing? And then how do you see that play out across the suite?
The way you look at each of those, like generative AI, it's one other item. There are a lot of AI models.
Right.
Each of those are ingredients. Now there is a new ingredient called generative AI.
Right.
And it has some additional capability, like it can summarize stuff, it can generate stuff, it can do a few other things.
Sure.
Another way, if you go to the core, there are 3 or 4 new ingredients that are available now. Now, what other possible recipes can you create with these ingredients? It comes down to that. We've been working on a bunch of other ingredients. We've been doing it for a long time.
Sure.
But now when you have a new ingredient to the mix, it creates some possibility for new recipes. And that's how we are approaching it.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. And one of the big advantages from generative AI is this move to more of a conversational interaction with the software.
Yes.
Is that something that you guys are thinking about?
Absolutely. And I was talking to one of the customers today, and she was asking, hey, I want to create this dashboard. Can you create a dashboard? Kind of, yes, but I said maybe a simpler approach is, why don't you start or ask Zia, in our case, which is our AI,
Right.
to create a report or a chart now. Now once it is created, you add it to your dashboard, add the second one, the third one, the fourth one. And then you can converse with the engine and tweak the chart and all of that and add it.
Yeah.
So we are looking at it from a conversational point of view as well.
And I think what you just said is really interesting, because we have kind of in business gotten a mindset of a dashboard, and I, as a user, I'm confined to the constraints of my dashboard. And then if I need something, I go back to the expert and they give me the new something. But in this new world, that's not true, right?
Yeah,
so now you're really talking about talking to the data.
To the data, instead of you going to your IT, giving your requirements and IT creating it, now you get to create it. So to some extent, it's consumerization of data, and now the power is moving closer to the consumer.
Right.
Just like back in the day, it was the IT that was configuring a CRM system.
Yep.
Now that has moved to the consumer. Now we are taking one level above, where we are bringing in the intelligence also to the consumer. It's on our fingertips.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, from a business perspective, when businesses look at what you're doing and how they should go forward, how would you advise them, especially when we think of this more in a systemic approach versus this kind of one-off productivity approach?
They're looking at AI and thinking it'll do a magic, but actually, I see there is a foundation that you have to lay for AI to work. And I see BI as a foundation to AI, meaning there is an intelligence or connectivity framework that has to exist for you to get insights out of it. Without that foundation, you're not going to be building your house on it.
Right.
So it's important that you lay the foundation, and typically making sure that you have the right systems, and those systems are pre-connected so that now you can gain insights. If you're trying to gain, let's say, AI insights from broken system, you'll get broken insights. You certainly will get insights, but those will be broken insights.
Yeah, I mean it really goes back to that data and the integrated data picture, which you can't do if you've siloed everything across your business. Yeah. So that's the number one problem.
Number one problem, totally. Yeah.
So when companies integrate with AI into their systems, I mean, obviously they're using a lot of your products, we hope, but they have other things. Yeah. So should they think about that? I mean, how do they integrate into their process without creating a disturbance in the business or creating some problems?
Yeah, I think they have to take the business problem solving approach first and not worrying about which software to use. Right. And software obviously come in later, the tool comes in later, but what is the problem you're trying to solve? If Zoho does not have it, then it's right to bring in the third-party tool and make sure that they are plugging these together and creating that recipe using those tools available to solve that need. And typically, those evolve over a period of time. Do we have the right tools that will evolve over a period of time and continue to solve the problem?
Sure.
Oftentimes, what happens is, because not every tool evolves at the same pace, not every tool is interoperable with other tools, then you get pulled back, and the piece that doesn't evolve becomes your weakest link.
Right.
And that keeps pulling back. Yeah. And that is a challenge every company faces.
Yeah, I mean that's obviously one of the bigger challenges, I think. But what about other things? What should companies be thinking about from a dealing with challenges perspective?
Currently, when it comes to, let's say, software, it is getting extremely efficient. Even if you remove AI from the equation, the softwares, we certainly see software being commoditized.
Right.
And what percentage of your IT budget is going towards software and all of that?
Yeah.
And I don't expect that budgets to expand significantly. So now it leads to productivity and efficiency of your IT team, and more importantly, how is it leading to the productivity of your end users?
Right.
Can your employees do more? I think that is where it has to come down to. So tools help productivity, and we may be reaching another acceleration point where AI can help accelerate. What are you doing to take advantage of that? Right. Because there are shifts in the industry that happens over a period of time that provides an opportunity. You can see it as an opportunity, or that could completely work towards as a detriment. So I call those waves. Now we are going through an AI wave. The vendors and the companies that ride the AI wave better will do well. The ones that miss the wave will not. You have seen that in the smartphone world. There are some smartphone companies that rode that wave well, some that didn't. So our industry is a series of waves. There are some that rode, say, maybe crypto wave.
Right.
or the online SaaS application wave versus desktop application wave.
Right.
And there are several waves. So our industry, technology industry, comes in a series of waves. Now we are going through the AI wave. Is someone taking advantage of the latest technology, or are you falling behind where you're allowing a competitor to ride that wave better than others?
Right.
And that's a decision any company has to use the set of tools available to make sure that they can compete well in the market.
So I mean, it sounds like you see this as a competitive differentiator, and companies that get in now have a much better chance of assimilating that and getting that into their process.
Assimilating even from our customers' point of view.
Right.
So we are a technology provider, but end of the day, it is our competitors who are using these tools to get better and take advantage of the tools and elevate to the next level.
Yeah.
So it comes down to this. There's obviously we have to, as a technology provider, we have to navigate it ourselves, but end of the day, the customers themselves have to navigate it themselves. Navigate it against their competitors to improve their thing. Otherwise, their competitor will come and take advantage.
Well, that's exactly right. I mean, that's the offensive and defensive kind of move there.
Yeah.
So when you think about using AI across all these processes, I mean, what are the kind of metrics that companies should think about as they look at that and figure out what does success look like for them?
I mean, each company operates in a different way. The thing we recommend is use a lot of these metrics on systems and all of that.
Right.
Don't use too much metrics on people.
Right.
Because there are some things that are measurable and should be measured. There's some things you cannot measure, and that will take you down the wrong path. You may get the right output if you're trying to measure people in the short term.
Yeah.
In the long run, that will be a detriment. So AI, you can say, hey, use this to measure the data and say, hey, there are some calendar effects, there are some broader trends, there are other things that are having an impact. But if you are saying, hey, this employee is doing, and measuring the productivity of an employee and all of that, that doesn't gel well for the long term, because there are only a few things that technology can solve. There are other human elements that are beyond technology that has to be given enough importance. So we obviously make some recommendations, but every company is different, and they may execute in a different way.
Yeah, I mean that is an individual decision, I guess,
Yeah.
but that makes sense. But I mean, you are definitely looking across this for productivity gains across all your processes, or at least the ones that you're
Totally, and using the technology to enhance the productivity, and it boils down to that productivity of the user. And to some extent, there are things we don't enjoy doing, and that is where AI can help. Yeah. So you can use it, and that certainly gains productivity. The tasks that you keep postponing to tomorrow, maybe those are the things that AI does well. Generally, what I found is the technologies that do well are the ones that make people lazy.
That's absolutely true. I think you're right. Yeah, I use mine all the time that way. That's it. Well, so when you're looking at this, and one of the sort of noise issues that has been around for the last year or so around this is the ethical considerations and privacy considerations. So how do you think about that, and how is Zoho helping customers address that?
Yeah, I think the privacy is something that is very close to us, and we believe, I mean, that's one of our core convictions. We believe a lot of abuse comes from greed, and that's an area where, when your motives are profit and all of those, then you go down that path which leads to privacy abuse. We are not trying to extract every penny possible from the customer. So that's why our goal is not that. Our goal is productivity and not that.
Right.
Unfortunately, the industry is going down the path of extracting it, and which is leading to privacy. And so where a company draws the line on what their acceptable privacy is matters. For us, we have drawn a strict line on an area, and that is something that we debate internally as we come across some additional scenarios. Hey, what is our line here? What should we do as a company? And we draw the line.
Right.
And but what we believe fundamentally is we should not take people's data without their permission
Right.
and use it to train our models. If people give us the permission explicitly,
Sure.
then yeah, absolutely. It should not be the other way around. The defaults do matter. And that is how we have adopted. Now, are there implications with that? Absolutely. Are there markets that will not be able to get to because of this? Absolutely. And we are willing to live with that. There are data providers out there which basically automatically fill in the data once you provide a domain and personal information of people. Well, our product is not going to be good there because that requires grabbing a lot of data without users' permission.
Right.
It has some compromises, and we are comfortable living with those compromises, which means those are the products that may not be good, but that's okay because we do not want to cross our ethical line and abuse users' privacy in order to make money selling that product. And that's our stance on some of those.
That makes sense to me, and I know privacy is a big issue for Zoho in general, so
Yes.
that's something that. So one of the things you mentioned earlier that I think is kind of an interesting side effect of this, maybe, and this is the idea of the commoditization of the software, and this is tied directly to AI as well, or at least some of it to AI as well. Can you talk a little bit about that? I think that's really interesting.
We are working on some technologies that will make programmer extremely productive, irrespective of AI.
Yeah.
Several times productive. Now, add AI to it, it will only increase the productivity.
Sure.
Now, what does that do? That commoditize the product even further.
Yeah.
And that has been the process all along. Yeah, I remember the days where we used to pay for a TCP/IP protocol.
Right.
I remember the days where every year or every few years we used to pay for a renewal of an operating system or even pay for a browser.
Yeah.
Now, is software like a CRM or accounting more complex than a browser or an operating system? Not really.
Not really, no.
So it's a matter of time before that gets commoditized too, and the value will move elsewhere. So now the question is, when that software is commoditized through various factors, where AI can be one of the factors, where does the value move towards? And as a vendor, are we on top of things? And what are the range of possibilities? And us making sure that we are there and we invest in our in where the roadmap could be is an essential part. We certainly see it going down that path.
Sure.
I remember paying $35 for a mail client or mail server hosting per month per user.
Yeah.
We ourselves sell it for $1 now. Right? We are seeing that, and AI will only accelerate the process.
Sure.
So we want to be leading the way there.
So if I was a developer, I might feel a little bit threatened by what we were just talking about.
Ironically, it is the developers creating the AI.
I know, right? So like if you had some advice to developers or aspiring developers as they come up, what do you think their critical skills need to be in the future? I mean, obviously, development has been a skill, but how should they think about this in the future?
It's tough to answer that now, partly because there are a range of possibilities.
Right.
Whenever there's a new technology, it takes away a few jobs, but it also creates new jobs. But we have to be, thinking and saying, where is it heading? What jobs is it creating?
Sure.
And where is it? Today, do we have an answer? No. We are in the early stages of seeing the range of possibilities and what it could do to what industries, but its implications and where it is going is still unknown. Maybe in 2-3 years from now, we may have the visibility. But people that are on the edge trying to see where it is going are the ones that tend to do well.
Sure. So let's shift a little bit and just think about this a little bit from how you guys are approaching. And I talked to a lot of different providers, and there's almost like this division that's starting to pop up where some providers have taken the stance that this is just a part of what we do. We're not adding something that has you pay more. And then there are other providers that are not approaching it that way. They're selling tokens or user usage based and that sort of thing. So how Zoho approached that from a pricing packaging perspective and philosophically, how do you think about that?
We believe in owning the core technology. If we do not own the core technology, you're reselling someone else's technology.
Sure.
Now, if you own the core technology and the components out there, then you control your destiny, not someone else.
Right.
We believe in controlling our own destiny. We own the AI pieces out there, and we own the GPUs and the hardware that
Sure.
it is powering. That enables us to create software and create the business model for the software. A good parallel is actually search. If you look at the enterprise search, there are companies that sell enterprise search for hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Right.
We actually include it for free in Zoho. And we are talking about maybe a few billion of indexes that happen every day
Sure.
within Zoho. But we offer it for free because we own the search technology and we own all the hardware that is behind it. A lot of companies tend to do this in public cloud. In a public cloud, you're paying for the CPU cycles and the usage and data usage and whatnot. If we were to put it in a public cloud, then we'll have to charge because it is someone else's charging. That is the reason the enterprise search, there's no one else in the enterprise search world provides it for free. Now, because we control the entire stack, we optimize it and we are able to offer it for free.
Sure.
I think search is a very good parallel to how we are looking at AI as well. We own the technology and we own the stack underneath, and we can decide the product business
Sure.
model. There are some cases where the compute might be really expensive. Maybe we charge a little bit there, but at least it comes to the core where we believe in providing good value, and that will continue.
Sure.
And our approach is all the core technologies we want to create.
Yeah, that makes sense. And interestingly enough, the other provider that I've talked to, that's exactly the same answer they gave. They own the entire stack, and that changes the economics quite significantly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, what advice would you give to businesses that are listening to this if they're thinking about, starting a journey with AI, and as they start that journey, are there some pitfalls, things they should be aware of that they should think about as they do that?
I think the number one thing is the privacy. Obviously, it is on top of our list. And vendors tend to get excited about technology. Are customers as excited? Are they using it? Are they adopting it? Is the key. So currently, there is a gap.
Yeah.
There is a gap. I think we have to bridge that gap.
Sure.
And the way to bridge the gap is infusing AI contextually to make sure that the user is benefiting from it. They don't care whether it is AI or something else. Are they benefiting from it?
Sure.
And don't let someone else drive it. You're not making AI noise because you're able to secure the next round of funding. If that is the intention, then you're going down the wrong path. If the intention is adoption from the customer and more importantly benefit for the customer, the backend will automatically be taken care. At least that is the approach we take.
Yeah, I mean that's good advice to think about, I think. And then, like for those companies that are kind of hanging back, should they get in now? Is it the time? Is it the right time?
Yeah, it's never too late. I mean, the way we look at it is AI is going to be a commodity, and it is going to be used across the board, and it's never too late. You have to control your destiny, but for that you have to invest in one of the core things. If you don't own, as a technology company, if you don't own the core technology, it's like a car company that doesn't make their engine. You become a reseller. And AI is going to be an engine for a lot of future products.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, Raju, I really appreciate you joining me today. I know it's a busy time. We're Zoholics in Austin, and I'm sure you're going to run off to a bunch of other meetings, but I really appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you for
to help.
coming.
I love, as you know, I love coming to this. It's a lot of fun and learning a lot of interesting things. But before I let you go, one thing I always ask guests for is a recommendation for the audience for, a book or a thought leader, somebody that you think they would get something from by reading or following.
I don't know if I can recommend anything, or I should say the latest book I'm reading is it's a letter to the young farmer. It's written by one of friends of Wendell Berry, because I see parallels between farming and software.
Yeah.
Significant parallels, and there's a lot more to learn there. And when you read the book, keeping your software hat on, it opens up the mind a little bit. So I find that fascinating.
Maybe I have to take a look at that, because that is interesting. And I know, obviously, with Zoho, I mean, you have a farm here in Austin. You certainly have the one in India and Benghazi.
The technology conference in our expo hall downstairs, we have a booth for our farm as well.
That's great. That's great. I love it. I love it. And I mean, last year we went out to the farm in Benghazi and saw that, and that's pretty amazing. All the things that are happening there. So, yeah, that's great. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Always fun to talk.
Thank you, Mike.
Sure.
Yeah.
And that's the show for this week. Thank you all for joining. Remember to hit that subscribe button. And for more on AI and other software research reports and posts, check out the arionresearch.com/blog and /research reports. And don't forget to join us next week. I'm Michael Fawcett, and this is the Disambiguation Podcast.